Hey everybody, this is Javier and Ramos. Today is the day. Today is election day. I am here with Hector. We're going to talk a little bit about the election because we're only a couple hours away from seeing a bunch of drama at the end of the day. Ain't that right, Hector?
It's going to be tedious for sure. You're going to have CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News call all the states that are heavily leaning left or right fairly early. I always remember Kentucky being called red for as long as I can remember. So you're going to have a lot of that, especially around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Like, I think one of the things that we should bring up like immediately is these swing states that they keep talking about. And it's really going to come down to the last hour, to the last minute, maybe even like the last seconds of these people messing with the ballots.
Testing? Yeah, I guess so.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, so I'll start again. We want to be careful with the words that we use. The pollsters aren't messing with the ballots, they're counting them.
Well, that's not quite what I meant. I meant just like these everybody's coming out of the woodworks right now to go vote. Like I voted early and I was in line for a few hours. So I can only imagine what like the elderly are going through right now. And a couple of the others that are just physically unable to stand.
Yeah, that's why you have mail-in ballots, where if you are deemed, or if you deem yourself unable to physically appear at um, early voting place or your polling location, you can have in a majority of the states, you can have your ballot mailed to you, especially if you have some sort of disability or if you're elderly, etc.
And I just wanted to mention what states are in fact the swing states. So we have Wisconsin, we have Pennsylvania, we have North Carolina, Nevada, Michigan, Georgia, and Arizona.
That is correct.
And these are the states that I'm more than sure are going to determine who's going to be the next president of the United States.
In a combination, yes. So you need 270 electoral votes, and a combination of those states will determine the next president of the United States. That we can definitely all agree on.
Like, and then I wanted to, once we got through all these like little things of talking about the swing states, and we can do the contrast of issues like abortion, climate, immigration, Israel, Gaza, the LBGT community, NATO, the tariffs, taxes, and inflation. Those are very important things that both presidents seem to try to get a grasp on.
Yeah, and they both have their respective policies on each and every one of those issues. And so, uh, you have your Democrats, you have your Republicans, where you lean one way or the other. And then there's a big swath of people who either are no party affiliation or support a third party candidate like JFK or Jill Stein or any of the other ones that are listed on each person's ballot. When I voted for president early this time, I saw like five names for president of the United States that I did not recognize. So there's always going to be those.
And there's always going to be the outside parties like the Green parties and so forth.
Yep. And even though they get votes and then they have every right to be there, when you're talking about on the margins, when you have a presidential candidate winning a state by 537 votes, like in Florida, when you have millions of people voting, those third party candidates are being taken a closer look at. Like, hey, come on, if you weren't in the race, somebody else would have won. And so there is an argument to be made for third parties, but again, they have every single right to run and have their voice heard.
Well, I would have to say like maybe every 10 years or so, You get somebody from a third party somewhere that ends up winning.
Not for president.
No, no, not
As
the president, but just like in general. Like it's once in a blue moon, somebody like outside of Democrats and Republicans. They run independent. We could say that much.
right. I cannot think of any off the top of my head, but as far down as state houses and state senates, maybe you'll have an independent. I know that what's her name from Arizona, who just like switched to independent because she knew she was going to be voted out by Ruben Gallego. In I believe again it's Arizona. You usually don't have that. You don't have an independent. Or if you do, kind of like Bernie Sanders, you still caucus with one party or another.
Yeah. And then I kind of wanted to get to I kind of want to get to the fun parts here, where we talk about the celebrity endorsements, which is kind of like I give you a list, and it's just like it's a wild list between Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Donald Trump's and JD Vance.
Yep, I see them. So Joe Biden is a given. He's going to endorse his vice president, and anytime that occurs, of course they're gonna endorse him, right? There's
You
no
know,
world where Joe Biden endorses Trump, right?
no, no, there's none. There's none whatsoever.
And then you have your celebrities, your A-list celebrities. You have Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Cardi B, John Legend, Magic Johnson, Beyonce. I mean, there's no like surprise, right? Like we just talked before the podcast that Joe Rogan now supports Donald Trump for president, and he only made this what 24 to 48 hours before the election, and so you have these endorsements can sway some voters as far as impacting the entire election. I'll give you less than 1% influence because of an endorsement from a celebrity.
Like I don't know if you're in Texas or not.
No, but I hear it's close. I'm in Florida.
It is. It is. It's I remember when Kamala Harris had her rally, but they were saying that there was going to be a Beyonce concert, and I
And
remember reading about it, and there was no Beyonce concert.
right, Beyonce didn't show up. You're right.
No, she did show up, but she didn't. She wasn't there to sing,
Oh, okay. So
and
she
they
did show up to
suckered in,
Houston. Right. So
but she was in Houston.
that the juxtaposition between Camila with Beyonce showing up to Houston, Texas, and never stopping in Florida tells you something, right? It seems like the Democrats, especially with Kamala, said, you know what, Florida has turned into a red state, and for Texas to be in play with 40 electoral votes, that tells you a lot. The fact that Kamala went to Texas to give it a shot tells you a lot because her time is very valuable.
Well, I think Texas is going. It's on its way to turning blue, if you can believe it or not. And I lived here in Texas my whole life. I've left Texas and came back. And now that I live in the Austin area, I could certainly tell you that the state is becoming bluer every couple of years.
And when is it going to tick, right? When will Texas tick to blue? And if it happens in this election, it's going to be that will be a blue wave that no one expected to see. Oh, I've only seen on Twitter or X a few posts, a few saying that Texas is in play or Texas may turn blue. We just don't. I don't see a world where it turns blue this election, but the next election, it is a possibility. It is. I think that you're right. I think that Texas at one point may actually tip the scales.
Because if I were to tell you, I would probably predict in like 10 years, we could start talking about Texas turning blue. In about 10 years, we're getting a lot
Yeah.
of people from California here.
Yeah,
But that
turning
was,
blue or becoming a swing state. I think you have to distinguish between the two. I see maybe Texas turns blue one election, but it to be categorized as a swing state where presidential candidates now have to budget a campaign for Texas, you're talking about now taking away from all these other potentially swing states and managing your budget, because no longer, when that day comes, no longer will Republicans be like, oh, it's Texas, leave it alone, it's going to turn red. Kind of like California is for the Democrats. Democrats have their California, we have our Texas. No, that day will change. That the day that Texas turns blue is the day that thinking changes, and Republicans will have to answer. Republicans will have to answer a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could tell you right now, in about 10 years, the Republicans are going to have to put some time and invest into Texas if they want to remain it red. And if they
Can
don't, they're going to drop the ball and it will turn blue.
can you imagine how much of a shift the future presidential candidates will have to change or adjust their budgets in order to make sure that Texas stays red? It's insane just to think about.
Well, it would be a nightmare on the Republican side if that were the case.
You're talking about 40 electoral votes.
Yeah. If you control California and Texas, then what is that, a good 70 right there?
No, California is 55. So you're talking about
So
95
90,
electoral
so
votes.
90 right there. That's
That's
quite a bit.
33% of your electoral college votes coming from two states. Insane. Just try to think about that.
And then I also wanted to spend some time talking about the Republicans' significant endorsements, the celebrity side.
Yeah, you have the creator of Tesla and SpaceX, and for all of his intelligence, he sees a direct threat from Democrats, and you got to give it to him. He's been on the stump with Donald Trump. He's been giving money to people who sign up to vote, and he was the last push for Joe Rogan to announce his endorsement of Trump. So Elon has been definitely out there. Has he fallen down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories? Yes. Do I believe that he'll be intelligent enough as time goes on to continue contributing to the future of humanity, and get away from these conspiracy theories? I do believe so. I think that Elon Musk is smarter and more intelligent than what he is now with sharing these memes and believing in these conspiracies.
Yeah, you could say that. Like I was actually very surprised that Elon Musk is really, I don't know if he's Republican, but he's certainly siding with the Republicans right now.
Right now, yes. When before um he wasn't into politics, right? I think that purchasing Twitter and the pandemic, how he saw firsthand how the FBI or the government, some people in the government emailed Twitter and said, hey, take this post down, take this post down, take this post down. And when Twitter did that because of pandemic and because they didn't want the wrong information out there, Elon Musk saw that and must have been truly carried away with, hey, why are people in the government emailing us or emailed Twitter back then to take these posts down? This is supposed to be the United States. We're supposed to be free. We're supposed to be allowed to post whatever we want, even if it is a conspiracy theory. It's the people that need to decide whether it's true or not. So I think that got to Elon Musk a little bit when he bought Twitter and saw what was happening behind closed doors.
I would agree with what you said on that one. Like I believe when Elon Musk bought Twitter and he got to see what was going on over there. And like I'm trying not to make fun of the Democrats and the blue hair and everything else. I'm not trying to make fun of them. I'm not trying to do any of that. But certainly when he saw on how unproductive they were and how expensive it was coming out to, and everybody's going over there and asking all these questions. He cleaned house. Like he got rid of like the majority of those employees over there at Twitter. Now it's
Well,
called
either
X.
yeah, either they quit or he got rid of them. But obviously now, because he controls Twitter, his algorithms now show more conservative posts on people's For You page. even though his what is it? His value was your For You page should not be determined by a set algorithm by Democrats. You now see more conservative posts. It's without reason and I see it for myself. When I go on, I see 2 to 1 conservative and Democrat postings on Twitter's and my For You page.
Yeah. And then also I wanted to sit here and talk about Joe Rogan. Like, how impactful has Joe Rogan been in this election?
Well, so let's look at it from his perspective, right? In 2020, he actually did it for the first time. He endorsed a presidential candidate, and that person happened to be Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders was one of the very few candidates that had actually gone onto his program and did an interview with him. So I maybe that's the trick. If you go on Joe Rogan, he'll probably endorse you. And then no other political candidate until Donald Trump shows up to his Texas studio and does an interview with him. Now, Rogan doesn't endorse him, but Elon Musk comes in, says, "Hey, Rogan, we need your support here, and this is why." Then, because Trump went on his show and because Elon pushed him, Rogan endorsed him Trump's, right? So just go on Rogan, he'll endorse you. That's what seems to be the pattern now. We will see if his influence continues and if maybe one day he will get uh both presidential candidates on because this time he didn't get to have Kamala on.
Yeah, I think when he approached Kamala Harris and they had an opportunity, he had to go wherever she was and only for an hour. And then there was restrictions and
Yeah, this
he
time
said,
it just
thank
didn't
you,
work out.
no, thank you. Yeah, that just didn't happen. But that also tells you how important I'm going to say podcasting is, like social media is becoming. Like it's becoming a big player.
So we have to remember that people on the internet and people that listen to these podcasts are just one faction of the American electorate. When you say the American electorate, you're talking about a whole slew of people with different interests, different way they receive the news. Some people still read newspapers. Some people just watch Fox News. Some people like to get from different sources. Some people get their information when they go to the diner to eat lunch. Eh, and yes, you do have your certain voters that do go online and social media and get their information from there. So just because Rogan has 3 million uh, a good enough following online, it doesn't mean that he's now going to influence an election. Again, people get their information from various different sources, sometimes just one. And that all important diner that I spoke to you about, it's a
Mhm.
metaphor, but it's real. People go to diners, people go to restaurants, especially in these small rural communities, and that's who they get their information from.
I mean, like when I use Joe Rogan as an example, but there's a lot of other podcasts. Like we just had Kamala on Call Her Daddy for some reason. Like I get a kick out of like she went on a show called Call Her Daddy. She went on a show called Club Shay Shay. You know, Donald Trump has gone all over the internet. And it just looks like, looks like they're having more of a blast going on the internet than they actually are going on television.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that their personalities don't change when they go to these different venues. I think the personality changes depending on if it's an interview, if it's a rally. So those are two stark differences. Someone at an interview and somebody at a rally, two different people, right? When you go on these podcasts, it's not a rally. You're still being interviewed, but your cadence is definitely a little bit less subdued than if you were answering tough questions, right? So obviously, when Kamala goes on these black friendly podcasts, she doesn't have her guard up like she did when she went on Fox News to get interviewed. Those two interviews are extremely, you can contrast them day in and day out. Or what I meant to say is you can contrast them like night and day.
Yeah, I would tell you that I saw the Fox News interview and he was pretty aggressive to It's Vice President Harris. I will
Yeah.
sit here and tell you that.
When Brett Baer said, "Are 80 million Americans stupid for voting for Donald Trump?" It triggered me like no end, but that she handled it with poise. Like, of course, I'm never going to say that about the American people. Like, I would have had other words for Brett Baer if he would have asked me that, and if I was running for president. But again, you learn that. This is something that is innate in you, and you train for it. You practice that with your campaign officials. Hey, you're going to Fox News. You need to train for like 10 hours because this guy is going to want to get under your skin, and we have to make sure he doesn't. We don't let him.
And all honesty, on that interview, I think he failed. I think he actually made Fox News look bad, the way that he was handling himself.
I think any Fox News anchor would have done the exact same thing. They have an audience and they want to cater to that audience, and they want to make sure that their audience follows um their lead. So if they're pro Trump, this guy or whoever interviews her, they need to be tough. They need to be really tough on her.
Well, I mean, like there's tough, and then there's just like what I felt like what he was doing. That's just over the top. Like I get it's for television, and I'm pretty sure they prepped him up and they worked him up before he went out there.
Well, apparently you haven't been watching Fox News lately.
I haven't watching Fox. Yeah, I haven't watching Fox News, but it's different when they're sitting right in front of you and you get to see the way the person reacts from it.
Brett Breyer, or I don't know how you say his last name. I am telling you right now, Javier, his interview style is how Fox News has been the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I couldn't sit here and I could go with you on that part. I
Yeah,
just didn't like
I watch
it.
Fox News clips all the time. And
I mean, I'm just the only thing I was saying is like you should have more respect for the vice president, even if you don't like her or don't like her. She is the vice president.
yes, and then Republicans will say that about the other side too, right? Um,
Yeah,
you should respect the former president. You shouldn't be calling him a fascist, etc. So you take what you want and you leave what you don't.
and then also wanted to sit here and talk a little bit about the good moments and bad moments of both sides. Here's a little bit of the fun part that I was gonna. So I was sitting there and I had one of my friends. He sent me a text and he's all like, "Hey, Waltz and AOC are playing Madden on Sunday." And I'm like, "What the hell do you mean, Waltz and Madden?" And like, who would have ever thought of they're gonna go on Twitch out of all places?
Listen, after 9/11, after pandemic, after George Floyd, Javier, you know that anything is possible. So when you tell me that a sitting House of Representative Congresswoman will one day be sitting next to a vice presidential candidate and they'll both be playing a video game live on some platform, online platform for millions of people to log in and see. If you would have asked me that in 2020, I would have been like, okay, yeah, I believe you. I saw a pandemic. I saw George Floyd. I saw this and that. I believe you. I went through 2016. I believe you.
Yeah. You know, and
Harambe.
and then what gets better, it gets better. Apparently, they even made a Fortnite map called Freedom Town, and nobody played it.
Oh well. You see, those are the deets that I did not have the pleasure of reading about.
Oh well, you should. So the max number on there at one point was 400 people, and they created the map within, I guess, a week or two,
Yeah.
just for Fortnite players, for the sole
I
purpose. There was
I
no guns.
believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Waltz and AOC were playing Madden, is that when the guy said the Puerto Rico joke at the MAGA rally in Madison Square Garden, and then AOC told Tim Walz about it like right there.
Well, yeah, that dude was very well, first of all, he's a very insensitive comedian. Like he's a super insensitive comedian.
Right, but I'm wondering, did Walls and AOC talk about the joke because it happened live and they were live on Twitch? I believe that was the
They talked,
case.
they talked about a lot of things, but that was gonna go viral anyways, because you shouldn't be doing that. Like even though it's Kill Tony, I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, yeah, that's the comedian, right?
Yeah, he's the comedian.
Yeah, it definitely rubbed a lot of the people the wrong way. Even if you are a roast comic, there's a time and place for everything, and that wasn't the time and that wasn't the place.
No, that wasn't at all. That was not at all. And then I got really tired of when they were both calling each other about the celebrities and Diddy parties and things of that sort. That got very tiring when they threw that around for a little bit.
Yeah, because J-Lo endorsed Camila because of the Puerto Rico joke, but then people were like, "Oh, look, J-Lo was at Diddy's parties, so you shouldn't take this endorsement for real." Again, just a lot of going back and forth. My guy is better than your guy, or my girl is better than your guy, or whatever you want to say. It's bickering, partisan politics. I'm just happy that soon this election is going to be over. I am a little bit fearful of what's going to happen next, especially after a possible Kamala win. I am a little bit fearful of what Trump and his supporters may or may not do. If it's not doom and just say, hey, it was rigged, or he finally comes out and says, I accept the results. I'm just a little fearful because of what happened on January 6th.
Well, I'm firmly believe that neither one of them is going to accept it. Like tonight, they're going to ask for recounts. This thing's going to get drawn out.
Well,
You can bet yourself that this is going
back
to
in
take a while.
back in 2016, I remember that Hillary Clinton called Donald Trump at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, "You won. Congratulations." And then he was in the White House with Obama the next day. Hillary Clinton did not wait for lawsuits to finish or anything like that. She called him uh, to say, "You win. Congrats."
I mean, I'm just thinking of like the worst of what's really going to happen. That would be the best thing that would actually happen is, there's a clear cut winner and you don't have to go through all that.
Again, as an American citizen, I am a little bit fearful about if Trump didn't accept the 2020 election. To this day, he has not. What makes me so sure he's going to accept or not accept this one if he loses? Right?
I, I
It's a
kind of
tough.
wonder about that too.
You wonder, but I'm fearful. I don't know if it's going to be another J6, but I am fearful of what might happen.
Well, I can say that I know if there's a clear cut winner, like there is no need of recounts if it's not even close, there is that chance of one side is gonna really get carried away and there won't be any need for any of that. There is that opportunity.
From your lips to God's ears, bro.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to bring up one of my favorite Kamala moments is just recently I saw her on Saturday Night Live when she made that cameo. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yes, yes, I did.
That was pretty funny shit right there. That was pretty funny. Like I got a kick out of watching that one.
Yeah, it's always special when these candidates like to play the funny game because I remember when Trump in 2016 went on Jimmy Fallon. So anytime that they go on these comedy shows and poke light at themselves, it's always going to be a good thing um for Americans to connect with them.
And then I want to talk a little bit about Trump before we actually like head out because we got a couple of minutes. Like Trump's jokes are I'm not gonna say they're pretty tasteless sometimes, but they're actually pretty good at the same time.
Yeah, he's a troll master.
He is a troll master. Like I got a kick out of like when he said they're eating the dogs, and then we just went on the internet and just
Okay,
video
so
after video.
well, let's break that one down. Do you think that he was being serious and people thought it was funny and they memed it, or do you think that he was trying to troll?
I could tell you they're trying to troll on that one. It's like it's hard for me to believe that these people are eating dogs and cats.
Well, it's not what you believe. It's do you think Trump believed it? Do you think Trump believed it and was saying it as if he was being very serious? Or do you think he was saying they're eating their dogs, they're eating the cats to troll people in a
No, I could tell you
debate?
they have to be out there trolling people. Like there's no way.
In a presidential debate, you thought that
Yeah,
Trump was saying that to troll. Okay.
yeah, I could tell you that it's a troll. Like there's no way they're really going to be saying these kinds of things unless they really want to get under their skin.
All right.
Yeah,
Like when Trump's joking, right? He'll laugh after, he'll say it
yeah.
sarcastically. When he was saying they're eating the dogs and eating the cats, he sounded very serious. He sounded very accusatory. He sounded like they were crazy and that they were actually doing it. He wasn't smiling, he didn't giggle and laugh. When he talked about the size of Arnold Palmer's private parts, he was laughing, smiling. When he was saying the cats and the dogs thing, he was being very serious. And while he was saying those things, so I guess it's to each his own how you want to interpret uh, some of the things that Trump says.
Yeah, I mean, like we're gonna find out tonight, and I'm pretty excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm slightly worried. Again, I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. Um, my anxiety is a little bit high, but it comes with the territory. Because I'm in Miami and our Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup. But if you know anything about what happened this past Stanley Cup Finals, the Panthers went up 3-0, but then the Edmonton Oilers came back and won three straight, forcing a game seven. The day of game seven is how I feel like today. Nervous, anxious, waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally the night came. So I was able to sit back, relax, just like you said, awaiting the results while I was watching the game. And thank goodness my Florida Panthers came back and won 2-1 to win the Stanley Cup finals. So that was an exciting thing to watch.
I want to take a minute to talk a little about Trump and how this is better than television. This is better than movies. This is just like you can't script this unless it was reality.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I'm sitting here telling is he had to go through like hell and back just to make it to this point. Wouldn't you say?
Um, well, Trump decided to run for president in 2016. So he knew more, like not more or less, but he knew what he was getting himself into. I kind of have to understand and say that he knew enough about history to understand that once you run for president and once you amass a number of followers and say some of the things that he has said, um, you're gonna get hate and you're gonna get blowback and you're gonna get people that are not gonna like you. And so when you are a charismatic politician, um, and you use vitriol as part of your personality as a politician, yeah, things may happen to you.
I think one of the things that actually swayed a lot of people is the assassination attempt. So we're going to talk about it. We might as well just start talking about it. That's one of the elephants in the room.
Right. The man was able to get very close to Trump stage, the stage where he was speaking from. The Secret Service did have their eye on him. How they let him climb up to the roof is beyond me. How they let someone who was armed get that close to Trump is also beyond me. I think those questions still have to be answered. I think they're still investigating it. And then finally, after the shots rang out, the Secret Service took him out. We know that Trump twisted his head at the last second before he got shot in the ear. And we know that Secret Service tried their best to take him into the SUV, but he did come out with his fist in the air. And the AP photographer took that now iconic picture of him with the American flag in the background, putting up a fist, and him bleeding on his face. And you cannot get any more iconic than that.
God, isn't
Regardless
that
of,
isn't that just an amazing image? Like, I know people hate it, but God, that is such an incredible picture that's gonna
remember, yeah,
go
they're
on
hating it based
forever.
on their biases and they're hating it based on whether they are Democrat or Republican. But I don't think anybody can deny that it's a powerful image. You can obviously still vote for the Democrats, and you can say this non-biasedly. It is an iconic image. I don't know about textbooks for little kids to see, but it is an iconic image.
No, I don't think little kids are gonna get that, but sure. I'm pretty sure when they get to be in like high school and
Yeah,
college, where you're gonna hear about this moment.
and it's not just Trump, right? We've had a number of United States presidents that have gotten shot. Two of them have gotten killed. Reagan was shot. He survived. I think William McKinley was shot, but died later. So a president, even a former president, trying to get assassinated is not nothing new. Again, like I said, you go into politics, you know what you're going to get yourself into.
And then let's talk about the ear bandage. Like that's not it's a really like amazing moment that he actually showed up with that ear bandage. And it was kind of thrown off. He was kind of like not all there. Like I think the shock was still there when he showed up. But I think he's already gotten back into the groove of things.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
don't know if it was a prop. I'm 100% sure that I'm speculating here, but they must have had a talk with him before and said, sir, what do you think about the thing on your ear? Do you want to go out without it, with it? And I think that he wanted to say, you know what, let me go out with it so that people don't hyper focus on my ear and instead they see the bandage and I go out there and make the speech so they'll actually listen to me and they'll focus less on my ear because you can't see it. So I think that's how he made his decision. At the end of the day, it became iconic as well. You had people at the Republican National Convention with an ear thing um, propped up to their ear, taped up to their ear. So will that image last, or will the image of him putting up his fist and the American flag stay with us? I guess it depends person to person.
I mean, I would tell you the one with the flag, the one where he got nearly assassinated. That's going to be the moment that goes on forever.
If a picture is worth 1,000 words, that picture is 10,000.
Yeah, that is the moment of that probably got a lot of people to go out and vote is what when that happened.
I saw a number of people on X saying, I don't know, quote unquote, I was on the fence, quote unquote, but because of this assassination attempt, I'm now voting for Trump. And I'm like, okay, let me go to your profile and let me look at the last 10 of your tweets before the attempt. Conservative post, conservative post, conservative post, Republican post, Republican post, Republican. I'm like, okay, man, you're a Republican, you're conservative, I think you were gonna vote for him anyway. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't think maybe at the time it did. Maybe at the time, um, it helped Donald Trump because remember, Joe Biden was still running. So a few days or a week after the first assassination attempt, Biden drops out, and now Kamala is the supposed nominee. So you had a tilt. You had a really big tilt from one side to the other, and then it finally like balanced out to where we are today.
Yeah, you're right on that one. Oh my God, like I
I
just
would,
like even with me talking to you about that one moment, It's just it's going to be living on forever.
How did that moment make you feel?
Oh, I was shocked. I was like, I couldn't believe that that really happened. Like I was actually watching it, and then you just see all the ruckus. You hear the shots fire. You hear the shots fire actually, and I was like, what the hell was that? And then you don't actually show everything. It just kind of like
Were
blacks
you
out.
were you watching live or did you happen to hear about it and
No,
then
no,
you
I was
started
watching it
watching?
live. Like I was
Huh?
watching it live. I was watching it live.
Oh, you were watching it live. Wow.
Yeah, I was watching it live because like I wanted to watch like what stupid foolery that he's gonna say, like what nonsense is gonna come out of his mouth. And an assassination attempt was like the last thing on my mind.
That must have been a shock for you.
It was. I was like, it's like what the hell just happened? And then all of a sudden you look on the internet and people are just one person lost their lives there.
Yeah,
Sadly, one person lost their life.
unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately.
But man, now we're at this point. Now we're just like, I don't know. We're here in the Austin area. We're having there's a Republican rally and a Democrat rally here in the Austin area going on right now.
Yep,
And
it's getting to that time.
it is. It's like, and I just want to see what is going to happen at the end. Like, what is the end game of who's going to get there?
Okay, so yeah, you flip a coin and if it's one side, okay, if it's the other, you make history. You can't I think that part has gotten lost because Trump is who he is. And you had this assassination attempt. The way she became the nominee isn't the best. She didn't win out the her primary opponents. So are people going to put a stain? Will historians put a stain on Kamala Harris's supposed presidency? You know, like as a history buff, I love history. If you really think about it, how are historians going to view her supposed win? Is it okay to say she is the first female president, she deserved it? Or are historians going to say the way that she won, even though she is the first female president, the way that she won wasn't entirely I don't want to say fair, but it wasn't the way traditional presidential nominations nominees get elected because they put her there. It's not like she beat out all of her opponents in the Democratic nomination process. And so it'd be very interesting to see how historians treat that if she wins. If you have a Donald Trump second term presidency, again, he's going to enact his policies. We will see about the House and the Senate. Um, some people may be fearful of being deported, but if that's what America wants, then that's what America gets.
Yeah, speaking of deporting and immigrants, I really do wonder if they're really going to go and start chasing down 10 million people or whatever number it is, because it has to be a lot.
And supposedly would cost like $350 billion.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna realistically, I don't see it in the cards of them just on a wild goose chase, like on a
Well,
witch
then,
hunt.
but then you have to think like, what are they going to do,
That's the million
right?
dollar question right there. That is one of the big questions. It's like, how do you do that? That's way above my pay scale.
No, no, no. What I'm saying is, if they don't deport, then what are they going to do with the time that they're there, right? What will Trump say if he says, "Look, let's not deport people. Let's do this instead." What is that something? What is he going to do? Because that's he will not be fulfilling a campaign promise. Well, that means
Yeah.
he's going to have to do something else, whether it's to stop the Ukraine war that he says he's going to stop, um, make peace in Israel with Gaza. Let's see when that happens. That would be interesting to see in a world where Trump wins. and he says let's not deport anyone, it's going to be too expensive, what's he going to do?
Yeah, because I think the immigration is really the one where I'm like, well, you got to hold up there. Like, how are you supposed to? Where are you supposed to find these people? Like, what about the children that were born here in the States? What about the people that made their homes here? Like, there's a lot of different things that people don't even think about.
Yep.
And that's really one of the main things that I have. It's like, how are you going to do this? Like, how is this going to be right?
Yep. And the one thing I have not really looked at per se is Project 2025. It just has a lot of these lofty ideas, but I don't think the actual document has the process of deporting. All it has is this is what we're going to do, but not necessarily the how. I do think it's lengthy. I think it has like 300 pages or something like that. I would have to look that up. Um, and if it is 300, then there are a little bit more details in it than I think it has. From what I've heard, it's just a lot of lofty ideas.
And then also, I want to go ahead and take a minute to tell everybody to go and vote. It is very important. We're fixing to wrap this up.
Yeah, for sure. If you are apathetic, if you're on the fence, if you have nothing to do today, probably going to hear this after the election day, but for the future, you have a voice. That voice deserves to be heard. And the best way to do that is in the ballot box. Do not think that your vote doesn't matter, because if a million of you think like that, well, then guess what? A million is way more influential than just sitting at home. So we want to make sure that everybody that hears this. If you're apathetic or if you're on the fence, vote. It is your right. It is your duty. Um, and be proud of voting, just like you are being proud to be an American citizen.
And then, with all that being said, thank you, Hector, for being on.
No, thank you, Javier. I always love coming onto podcasts. It's my first crack at politics, but I think we got through it well enough. I tried to, stay down the middle, give people the facts, and yeah, you heard my opinions here and there, but again, take what you want, leave what you don't, and Godspeed.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you,
And
Javier. Thank you.
well, everything that you send me, all the details and everything will be on the description. So
Yep,
if you
just
want
really quick.
everybody to find where you're
Yeah, for
at,
sure.
we're
Hector
gonna have it
Suco
on
dot
there.
yeah, definitely. HectorSuco.com, HEC2ORSUCO. I'm a self-published author. I have a board game. If you're Catholic, I have a rosary prayer book for you to check out and an audiobook for that as well. Follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all that good stuff. So again, Javier, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.